Hey guys, Brad here. This channel is all about optimizing every aspect of your life, and this is my first video for the year 2021. We all know that the year 2020 was a crazy year. If you saw my most recent video, you'll see that I spent the year doing all kinds of things, and one of those was getting out of debt. So feel free to check that channel out now. And if you aren't already, subscribe to my channel if you want to see more stuff like this and follow along my path. And to kickstart the new year, I know everyone's gonna be making New Year's resolutions, making new goals. You all know that I did a lot of work on my finances, and I plan to do that going into the next year. And that's why I'm making this video right now. If you haven't already heard, there was a new round of stimulus checks, this time for $600. There's talk about another one for $2,000 at some point in the future, but I'm not gonna be going there until I have some actual factual info. I wanted to give you guys my thoughts on how to best spend your stimulus check. This actually applies to a lot more than just this check. The priorities in this video are actually gonna represent the same priorities that I apply to all of my regular spending for every single paycheck that I get in. And in my opinion, this is probably a good idea for a lot of you. So I hope you can judge this information, categorize yourself to figure out where you are financially, and then make a decision about how to best spend your stimulus check, whether that's investing it, paying off debt, buying yourself something nice, investing in yourself. There's lots of different ways you can spend this money. So in this video, we're gonna figure out what's the best for you and what you should do next. So if you just got your stimulus check, you're probably excited to get that free cash, tax-free, and you're wondering what you should do with it. I know I'm a week in, so you may have already spent it, but if you haven't received your stimulus check, here's my opinion of the steps that you should take, the priorities that you should make on where the money should go and in what order. Now, if you haven't already received your stimulus check, you're still eligible and there's still a few things that you can do. So really quick, I wanna go over who's actually eligible to receive the stimulus check. So if you're not sure whether you qualify for the stimulus check, there's actually a few changes to the eligibility for the stimulus check in 2021, as opposed to the last one that went out for $1,200. The main indicator for your eligibility is gonna be based off your annual gross income. So to qualify for the full amount, you need to have made under $75,000 in AGI, which is your adjusted gross income. If you're married, then it's double that at $150,000. However, the more that you make over that amount, the more they're gonna take out of what they give you for your stimulus check. So for the last stimulus check, any amount you made over $75,000, make a stimulus check, although it'll be a little bit smaller, all the way to the point of $99,000 adjusted gross income for a single tax filer in the last year, at which point you would not be receiving a stimulus check. And you can just double that if you're married, filing jointly to $198,000, at which point you would not be receiving any stimulus check. This year, the upper limit is a little bit lower. So if you're filing single and you made $87,000 or more, then you won't be taking home a stimulus check. And you can double that again at $174 if you're married filing jointly, at which point you will not be taking home any stimulus check. So that means that you're gonna be getting a $600 stimulus check if you're eligible, some amount less if you make more than that $75,000 amount, or if you exceed that limit, you won't be taking anything home at all. However, there are some other minute details. So if you have children, you may actually get up to $600 per child who's less than 16 years old. There's actually no cap on how many children you can claim for payment. So if you have 10 kids, you may actually be eligible for an extra $6,000. A couple quick minute details on qualification. If you're a citizen living abroad, you still do qualify. It's the same as the CARES Act. If you're a citizen of a US territory, then yes, you still qualify, but payments will be handled by each territory. If you're on SSDI or Social Security Disability Insurance, and for some other non-tax filers, then yes, you still may qualify, but you may have to take an extra step. Originally, people who were incarcerated were not necessarily included, but now that has changed and you do qualify. And if you're someone who owes child support, then there's actually a new bill that will include you as an eligible person. I also want to note that if you're not a US citizen, even if you're someone who's paying taxes, you're still not going to be considered eligible. Now, the amount you made is going to be calculated based on your 2019 tax filing. If you didn't file for taxes in 2019, the IRS is not going to be using your 2018 tax filing. Now, for those of you who have not yet received your payment, the IRS provides a tool called Get My Payment. This tool will let you check your eligibility, track your payment, and see when it's actually going to be delivered to you. So if you haven't yet received your payment and you're wondering where it is, I'll leave a link down in the description where you can find that tool. So for those of you who have already gotten your check, or for those of you who are expecting it in the mail sometime soon, you're probably already thinking about where to spend this money. Now, there's all kinds of things you can do to it. And in fact, the intention of this stimulus check is to stimulate the economy. So the idea here is that when people are spending this money, putting it back into the economy, it's actually gonna help the economy function and thus improve the economy. But unless you're a super generous person, and if all you care about is stimulating the economy, then sure, spend the money however you want. But if you're like me and you want to make the most use of your money, you have to be a little bit selfish and figure out what makes the most sense for you. And now there's tons of ways you can actually spend this check. You can invest it in the stock market. You can put it in a savings account. You can go through this list to judge on yourself, choose your own priorities, and then make a decision from there. So again, if you saw my latest video about me paying off my debt, I actually got in that situation because of irresponsible spending and not putting thought into where my money goes. I hope that if you saw that video and you weren't already making the most of your money, you're working on getting out of debt, you're starting to invest in your future and trying to make the most out of your money. Well, getting the stimulus check is going to be a jump in the right direction. This is free money for those of you who qualify, and if you're not already, then starting today, you can make the most use of your money and continue that momentum throughout the year and throughout your future and start growing your wealth. So in my opinion, here's how you should take your stimulus check and honestly, all your future payments or any money that's coming in, getting out of debt, growing your wealth, and optimizing your financial future. So what I think the first thing you should do is invest that money into the like button, because it takes a lot of work to make these videos, and just hitting that like button one time, making it blue, helps me out a ton. So the first category that I think is the most important is for what I call survival mode. So the first thing you should spend this money on is the essentials. If you don't already have them, obviously you need to have food, you need to have shelter, you need to have clothing. These are things that you need to survive. And if you're lacking these things, if you're in a point in your life where you don't have the essentials, this is the first thing that you should do to make sure you can get by, be healthy, and survive. If this is a problem for you, it's very important that you take this seriously and use this money to invest in your own well-being. Immediately after that, I think it's very important to establish some kind of emergency fund. I still consider this survival mode if you don't have an emergency fund, because as soon as something happens in your life, an unexpected bill comes up, an actual emergency happens. If you get in a car crash or you get injured or something like that, it's important that you have a little bit of cash on hand. That way you can pay for those bills without having to take on even more debt. That way you don't have to panic, you can cover those costs, and you don't end up living on the streets. So if that's your current situation, you can take this emergency fund, drop it into a debit account. That way you at least have something that you can spend when you need it. Taking that a step further, you can open a high interest savings account. I use Ally Bank for mine, and at least that money will be making some amount of interest. You can take this a step further by investing this into a Roth IRA or some kind of easily, quickly accessible fund. That way it still continues to grow, but you can still access your funds immediately. But the quick, simple solution is to drop it into a savings account. That way you have that money ready to go whenever you need it. Most people recommend having something between 3 and 6 months. Some say longer, some say shorter, but as long as you have something that you're able to use in case of emergency, this is probably the most important thing that you can do. So if you have all the essentials covered, then you can graduate out of survival mode and into maintenance mode. This is a place where you need to sustain your life, and to me, this is working on paying off your debt and beginning to build wealth. That can happen simultaneously, and there's many methods to strategize the best way to get out of debt and the best way to grow your wealth. I'll talk about that in other videos, or you can click here to see some of my financial playlists. But if you saw my latest video, you'll see that I recently got out of debt and I'm moving on toward the building wealth. But if you saw my latest video, you'll know that over the last year, this is the mode that I've been in. I've been working on paying off debt, and at the end of 2020, I actually finally succeeded in doing that. I did that by investing in the stock market, cryptocurrency, while simultaneously paying off my debt. Now that I got out of debt, I can move on to the next category, which I like to call growth. This can be personal growth, this can be financial growth, but basically this category is for focusing on taking your net worth, taking your self-value, and improving over time. If you're accumulating value, whether that's financial or personal value or wellness, as long as those things are growing, then your life and your well-being will be improving over time, rather than staying the same. So at this point, there's all kinds of options that you can take. You can invest in yourself by doing trainings, taking classes, getting certified for things, doing things that actually may make you more money in the future. You can also invest in other parts of your life, but make sure that you're thinking of things that are going to improve over time, rather than trying to improve your well-being by buying flashy new clothes or expensive hardware that's just for fun and not going to improve your life in the long term. If you pay any attention to the stock market, or especially cryptocurrency, things are really crazy right now. So at this point, it's actually time to start doing that. One of the first investments you should be making is investing into your 401k if your company has a match. A lot of companies will say if you put in 4% of your paycheck, they'll match that to 4%. Every company varies and does different amounts. Some don't do it at all. But if you have it, make sure you're getting that money, because it's just free money and it really adds up in the long run. After you're reaching your match, you can continue increasing your contributions, or you can invest in other things that are more liquid, like investing in the stock market. There's a lot of ways to get in, and you can check out my other videos on my opinion on how to actually get started. But you can do this today by signing up for Robinhood, making an investment in something like VTI or SPHD, starting to make recurring investments, and over time you'll see your money start to grow. If you want to get started today, I have a few links in my description for M1 Finance, Robinhood, Webull. If you follow any of my links, you'll get a free stock or some free cash to get you started investing. But make sure you set up recurring payments no matter how large or small that is. That way you can watch your money grow over time. When you're in this category, there's all kinds of other investments you can make, and I'm not going to go too crazy into detail here, but the idea here is that we're growing our wealth. So the last investment I want to point out is that you can invest in real estate. This is something I'm working on in 2021. In my opinion, it seems like it could be one of the most profitable long-term investments that you can make. There's a much higher barrier to entry because you have to pay for down payment, closing costs, and all of that. So it's much harder to get in. But once you're in this category of growth, you can save up for something like this, just like I am today, and hopefully grow your wealth even faster in the future. With everything going on right now, it's really hard to tell what's gonna happen next. There's talk about another $2,000 stimulus check in the future, but I don't want you to bank on that. Assume that you're not gonna be getting that stimulus check, work with the facts and what you have today, and make sure that you're using this as a smart investment for your future. You don't wanna spend this on something, expect that you're gonna get another stimulus check later, and then a few months goes by and it's gone. You forgot about it. It'll be much nicer if in a few months you can take a look back and say, wow, I'm in a much better place today. I have less debt, or look how much my money has grown. I really hope you can use this money wisely and set yourself up for a much better future. Now, there's one other aspect to this that I do want to mention is the mental aspect. Sometimes when you're just paying off debt for a really long time, or you're investing for a really long time, you don't actually get reward out of it. So one thing that you might consider doing is doing a mix of the things that I mentioned before. Maybe you pay off a little bit of debt, you buy yourself something a little bit nice. That way you see some kind of immediate return, but just make sure that you're at least putting a lot of thought into it and you're doing what makes the most sense for your current situation. So that's it, guys. I hope that you agree with the tips that I mentioned. These are actually things that I'm gonna be following. If you're following my channel, you'll see where I am along this path, but this is a set of priorities for all the money that I see. Over the last year, every single paycheck I've gotten, I've been investing, I've been paying off debt, and for the rest of my life, I'm actually gonna be following these same things. I'm hoping to make more investments in the stock market, more in crypto, and hopefully very soon I can get into real estate, and I'll be coming to you guys with updates on that in the future. If you feel like I missed anything or you have any questions about the things that I mentioned today, leave it down in the comment section. If you haven't already, make sure you click the like button. It helps my channel so much, and if you're not subscribed already, please get on that. I left a link to the IRS Get Payment tool in the description if you want to find out where your stimulus check is or whether or not you qualify. There's links to my M1 Finance, my Robinhood, and a few other tools that I use to grow my wealth down in the description if you want to get some free stocks, some free cash, or just get started investing today. Make sure you follow me on Instagram at optimize_your-life. I post there whenever I release a new video and sometimes a little bit more. But most importantly, make sure you guys are putting thought into every decision you make and optimize your life. I'll see you next time.